In this tutorial we cover how to target large specimen flounder from the UK and mainland Europe. We'll first look at the stretches of coast flounder can be found. We'll look at the ideal conditions that will maximise your chances. We'll also go over some casting tips and other key methods, followed by a talk on tackle and some tips on bait. So where can we expect to find flounder? For the first time in this series, the species that we are covering actually turns out to be pretty much on every stretch of coastline. This includes the entire UK and as far up as the Barents Sea of northern Norway right down to Portugal. They are found throughout the Mediterranean as well as the Black Sea. They are also found throughout the majority of the Baltic Sea, even in its most brackish waters. They are also found on the southern Icelandic coast. So which conditions best suit flounder? In the UK, flounder can be caught throughout most of the year, with the season for the southern UK reliably starting usually around March just after they begin to return from spawning. For further north it can typically be around April that the flounder begin coming back inshore. For the specimen-sized flounder, it's best to target them from October onwards up to January, as this allows the flounder to have an entire summer to feed up and gain size. By the time February arrives, the breeding size fish will leave to spawn, leaving little to catch until they return. Flounder are not overly affected by tide size. In the case of fishing estuaries though, it will likely pay to fish smaller tides, as these will make conditions more manageable for factors such as current and weed. It's the flood tide that brings flounder on the feed, in particular the middle hours of the flood. Flounder will actually fish during day or night tides. This is further supported by the fact that they can be found in very sediment-rich waters such as silty estuaries. In fact, fishing coloured water conditions in the day can see them feed reliably, very close in by scent, despite also being very visual hunters in clearer conditions. One of the best times to target them is after rough seas when plenty of natural food has been dislodged by the wave action of the surf. They will feed in very calm conditions but surprisingly feed in fairly rough surf conditions. The best conditions to fish in will tend to be during an easy to moderate surf, as this will ensure the fish are still good and close in. The very rough swells will see them further out in slightly deeper water. So let's look at some casting tips and other key techniques. Flounder can be found on many open beaches, but they are much more commonly found inside estuaries or the beaches that are nearby. They feed over sandy seabeds, or often over seabeds that have sand mixed with mud. They are known to feed in very shallow water, sometimes just a few inches deep. Flounder tolerate extremely brackish water and can be found far inland, in water that has virtually zero salinity. For the open beaches, as flounder are drawn to brackish water, one good technique is to target spots along the beach where freshwater streams run out into the surf. Always try to aim for any low-lying gullies or depressions that can be scoped out at low tide. These will hold flounder that sit out of the main currents. For estuaries, it will mainly be around the mouths of the lower estuary that they will be found. They can also be caught from the side creeks that come off of the main channel. Let's take a look at a typical ideal tackle setup for flounder. One great rod choice to use is the smaller flatfish or estuary style rods. But here we opt for a bass rod. The reason being is that it gives you some extra casting power if fishing in very windy conditions. It also allows you to handle any bass that may come along, as these often haunt the same kind of surf. 12 pounds mono or braid is fine, along with a 30 to 40 pound casting leader depending on which weight you are using. 10 pounds breaking strain will be needed for every ounce of weight you intend to cast. Using a plain lead will allow the rig to drift and find those gullies and depressions we spoke about. A 60 pounds mono rig body will be ideal. A sliding lead boom will allow a running ledger to be used, giving excellent bite detection, which can be important for preventing deep hooking. Fluorocarbon snoods will prevent tangles in the surf conditions. Use a minimum of 15 pounds to prevent abrasion on the sand. Using beads of any colour on your snoods will not only add visual attraction, but they will also keep the baits low to the seabed where the flounder will be feeding. Use long shank flatfish style hooks which aid in unhooking. Thin wire patterns will be fine. Size 2 or below will better fit the small mouths of this species. So what are the top baits for flounder? Lugworm are considered the top bait for flounder. Another top bait is peeler crab, especially in the estuaries where there are any rocky patches of ground present. Shellfish baits are another effective bait, especially on the surf beaches after rough seas. Harbour rag can also work well. Flounder are also known to respond well to ground bait. If you'd like to know how to catch other flatfish species such as Dover sole or plaice, check out the video links showing now. Don't forget to subscribe to stay notified of new uploads. And be sure to check out the channel page for lots of other sea fishing tutorials. Simply click the channel name below the video window. Thanks for watching Lighthouse Sea Fishing Tutorials. Until next time.